Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Waynesboro at Work, a podcast where we interview entrepreneurs and business leaders from the Waynesboro area to learn more about the origin stories of their business, the passion for the work they do, and a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, Brooke Anderson, and I am joined today by Kim Earhart, who is the owner of Kline's Dairy Bar in Waynesboro, Virginia. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you for being here. So it's hard to believe that anybody that has been in this area for any amount of time would not know what is going on over at Kline's Dairy Bar. And there's certainly a hint in the name of the business. But for anyone listening that might not know, tell me what Kline's Dairy Bar is all about.
Sure. We are an ice cream shop. Kind of a specialty ice cream shop. We've been around a long time in the Shenandoah Valley. We were family started in 1943 in the Harrisonburg area, but Kline's Dairy Bar in Waynesboro, like all the other locations, we make fresh custard style ice cream every morning at each location.
Yes, and that is as delicious as it sounds. So that is awesome. And the history is amazing. Like you said, 1943. So definitely just sort of a staple for this area for sure. How did you get involved in owning a Kline's?
The Kline family started it back then in the 1970s. John Kline passed away and his wife ended up selling the business. But she continued to work there, and it came into our family, the Earhart family, in around 1979. My brother owns that store up in that area, and I ended up working for him when I was only 13 years old. He was only 19. And so we've carried on the Kline family tradition. So they owned it for about 30 some years, and we've owned it for 40 some years.
Wow, that is impressive for sure. So, starting in a family business so young, you mentioned you were 13 years old. What do you think are some of kind of the life lessons that you learned from being involved in a family business at that young age?
I got a real appreciation for understanding how things affect the owner. Rather than just working for a chain store where your owner is not present and perhaps your actions are not directly affecting a particular person. So I really saw how it affected my brother, and also working for him. And I got to work for Bess Kline for many years, and she taught both of us a lot. It just became part of my family and my history. And I just really took a passion for it.
Nice. So when it came time to be the owner of a location, what was that process like?
Well, I did learn a lot from my brother as I was a teenager growing up under him and working for him. I saw how he treated his employees and the passion that he had for the product, for the employees, and for the community. I saw his struggles, but that had a lot of impact on me. I just kind of adopted his philosophies. Really good product, treat your employees well. We have a lot of teenagers that work for us, and so we try to be flexible. And we just try to provide a good value to our customers. We always have, and so did the Kline family.
Right. So do you think that if you had not kind of gotten started in a family business early on, that you would have still ended up being an entrepreneur? And I ask because, we talk to so many entrepreneurs, and it's always fascinating how there's like more than one road, more than one pathway to kind of becoming an entrepreneur. But I'm just curious what your journey you think would have unfolded as.
That's a good question. I might have still done something on my own. I remember as a young kid, putting a little flyer up on the wall like Kim for hire, does odd jobs. And also my father was a CPA, a partner at a firm. So he was a business owner, and I grew up under that as well. And actually, my sister and I both became CPAs and worked at his firm and then other firms. And for a short period of time in between opening up Kline's Dairy Bar in Stanton and my college days in my accounting career, I actually did open up my own accounting office in Charlottesville for a short period of time. But the ice cream was calling, and I didn't enjoy accounting as much as serving ice cream. So yeah, I think maybe I still would have found something to do in terms of being self-employed.
Awesome. Where do you think that kind of drive comes from? Like when you're a little kid putting up your flyer that says, hey, hire me to do odd jobs. What do you think it is that kind of sparks that kind of drive?
I guess it's a personality thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Industrious.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely. So, we've all had over the past 2 years at this point, kind of a collective experience of dealing with COVID, and there's no business that was immune from that. What was the impact of COVID on Kline's?
So at the very beginning, it was just really uncertainty and nervous, like what's going to happen and what was best for the business, the customers, and my employees.
Right.
Just really wasn't sure those first few weeks. And closed during the week and was open weekends only while I was kind of unsure as to what we should do. And then it became evident very quickly within a couple of weekends that people needed somewhere to go. And we were packed on the weekends. So then it became evident that, and I had close friends telling me, look, Kim, we need this. It's something enjoyable to go do and a little light in kind of this dark time. And they encouraged me. And the customers seemed to be really happy coming. So then we embraced it and, told my employees, those that were nervous about working, they didn't have to come in, and some of them chose not to. And those that did choose to come in, we really did the best we could with being clean and safety measures. And we made the best of it. And then after a couple of months, it was so crazy. And we just kind of got in the groove of it and tried to have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you bring up like a good point is, it's interesting how in such uncertain times, like the things that bring us comfort and, certainly, like you said, kind of going to your favorite shop to get some ice cream and, a little bit of that normalcy was just so important to everybody and magnified. So it's really cool that you were able to kind of be one of those foundational pillars in the community during such a trying time for everybody.
Yes, I was very grateful. Yeah.
Yes. So switching gears a little bit from the seriousness of COVID, are you able, and this might be a big reveal for the podcast, but are you able to tell us how do you make the ice cream taste so good? What is it? Is there a secret formula? Like what is going on with it? Because it is always delicious.
Oh, thank you. A lot of what makes ice cream good is the amount of air that's pumped into ice cream. Of course, it's the quality of the ingredients. If you're using kind of fake flavorings or real fruit or, the good stuff, your cream, your amount of butter fat, maybe your sugar quality, if you're doing something less expensive like corn syrup, or if you're using expensive sucrose or good sugar. So all of those, and we've got our own formula that our dairy makes just for Kline's Dairy Bar. So of course we've got really good ingredients, but I'm telling you, the biggest difference you'll find in ice cream is air. It's in the industry. In the industry, it's called overrun, and so it's a percentage of what the machine is whipping into the product as it goes through the machine. So most people are only familiar with soft serve machines where you're going to pull it out. Or going to a shop where they're going to hand scoop, and the ice cream was made from a batch freezer machine. And those augers, both of those methods pump a lot of air into it. We use a different machine. It's kind of the frozen custard style of machine that's continuous flow. And I know that sounds kind of technical, but basically as the mix is going through the machine, we make it each morning into big tanks. And it just doesn't pump much air into it. And that just makes it really smooth, makes the ice crystals really small, and just makes it more velvet on your tongue.
Wow. Well, I have learned something new because I had no idea how important air was to the flavor of ice cream, but that is really fascinating. My other really burning question is like, who and how do you come up with, like, who comes up with and how do you come up with the different flavors that you're going to feature? Because I'm always looking for the sign to let me know what's being featured.
Sure. So we've had some standards over the decades, and some fall out of favor over the years, with the generations. You don't see pistachio and butter pecan or butterscotch around as much anymore as you used to. So we've tried to stay current, and we watch trends, and we also think about what we might think is good. But of course, over the last few decades, candy inclusions have become really popular.
Mm.
Like an Oreo or cookie dough.
Yes.
So sometimes, like peanut butter Oreo, I found myself really liking our hot peanut butter sauce over Oreo ice, well, on top of vanilla ice cream with Oreos. And I finally thought this just needs to be a flavor. My brother's friend told him a couple of years ago, because we had made lemon for a few summers and it had been really popular, but then after a few summers, it wasn't selling as well. And we took it away for several years. And then his friend said to him, Mike, the lemon ice cream with ginger snaps in it would be really good. And so they started making it at Harrisonburg Kline's, and I thought they were crazy for a couple of years, and I didn't do it. And then I realized I finally made it up in Stanton and Waynesboro, and it is a phenomenon. It's got like this cult following. I guess the tartness of the ginger in that lemon is just, people say it's a really nice combination. So just a combination of listening to people around us, suggestions on flavors, and also trying to watch what national trends are.
Mm. Right. Interesting. And it is interesting. And it makes sense that that would change sort of like through the generations. Cause you're right. When I was growing up and went into my grandparents', freezer, it was pistachio and butter pecan and all these things. Right. And I have to say, it's so funny you say that about the lemon ginger snap, because that is like, I end up just buying the big containers of that because it's so good. So just like one serving is not enough. So I'm a huge fan. I'm one of those cult followers of that flavor for sure. For sure.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, one of my favorite flavors has always been pumpkin. And I can remember back in like 1997 when I opened up a shop in Stanton, Kline's, and I was trying to hawk this pumpkin at like Halloween and Thanksgiving. And it was so funny because I remember customers really thinking it did not sound good. And I was like, have a sample spoon. Really, I'm telling you, it's my favorite flavor. Try it. So it's interesting how, the bigger companies and their national marketing influence our country, because, Starbucks, and Dairy Queen and some of the other ones have made pumpkin a phenomenon, right? Everybody loves pumpkin. Now we expect to start getting pumpkin in September.
Yeah.
So after a few years, I didn't have to beg people to try my pumpkin anymore. They were just all in,
Yes, it really is interesting how those trends like take hold. And like you said, suddenly something that people weren't that interested in is like this phenomenon that everybody is clamoring for. So that is really, really interesting. So would you say then pumpkin is your absolute favorite, or are there other contenders up there?
I love the peppermint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sometimes it's whatever it is for the week.
That's
Like
right.
I think I have this one favorite, but then like it may be coming right out of the machine and it's
Yeah.
so fresh and it's like, oh, I forgot how good raspberry was, or I forgot how good Oreo is. Yeah, and it's funny because those of us that work at the shop, we get kind of tired of black raspberry. But that's and we make it a lot, and we make ourselves purple, and but that is our number one flavor, and our customers over the decades have just loved raspberry, so that's why we make it so much.
Okay, well, very good to know. So anybody listening that hasn't tried the raspberry, that's the next one that should be on your list then. Um, so we talked about, kind of how, the community came together during COVID around your business and how you kind of employed, teenagers in the community and all of that. Why is Waynesboro such a wonderful place to have, your business and establish that kind of connection with a community?
I love Waynesboro. I love the Shenandoah Valley. I think
Mhm.
it's just a beautiful place to live, and it's got four seasons. Um, Economically, it's a good place to be. It's a great place to raise a family. Um, and people are so friendly
Mhm.
in this area of the country, and again in the Shenandoah Valley. And I feel like we're, at rural Virginia, we've got nice medium-sized, mid-sized towns all around us, like maybe 20,000 in population.
Right.
It's just a really sweet size that there's enough to do in the communities, and they're so supportive and friendly. And I don't know, so we have shops in Harrisonburg and Stanton, McGahkeysville, and Waynesboro, and I just feel like they're all very similar, and they're all great places to have businesses. But specifically Waynesboro, I'm really excited. I mean, I've seen over the last 10 years, downtown redeveloping, and I think over the next 5 to 10 years, it's just going to get even better. I'm very excited about what's happening in Waynesboro. So yeah, it's a great place to have a business. We're growing,
Yes, absolutely.
and
Definitely this.
in a good way.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think, there is kind of the sweet spot where kind of like you were talking about, where there is accessibility and there's like enough support for business, but you still have that quality of life that you find in areas that are, maybe smaller in size. So it kind of is kind of the best of both worlds in a way.
I agree.
Yeah. So you have, been at this business for a very long time, all throughout these many years. What advice would you have for someone that is thinking about starting their own business? What are your words of wisdom for those people that might just be starting out?
I always tell young people, to try to get a little experience under somebody else. So maybe not go open up your own business yet, or your own trade or profession. Go work somewhere else for a couple of years, so that you can learn how to do it better.
Yeah.
Then find yourself a mentor. It's so great to have a mentor that can help you. There's no sense in trying to do it alone. It's hard. It's great there's so many people out there that enjoy helping and will help to mentor you. Then I would say planning, like make sure you plan, get your business plan together, figure out your resources, find your budget, figure out if it's going to be, is it worth it to sink, your whole life savings into it? Or maybe it's better to put your money in an investment portfolio. Understand you're going to work hard. And then I would say, make sure you budget for signage and some cash flow. So many times I see small businesses start, and then by the time they start, they have run out of money. And so they can't put up a nice professional sign, and also have cash for some daily needs. And then that really hampers their ability to attract customers from the very start.
Right. That is such wonderful, practical advice. And Absolutely. That budgeting is so key. And like you said, like having a plan, there are, going into it kind of with some thought and intention and planning can save such headaches, down the road eventually. So that's wonderful practical advice. So, sometimes I talk with entrepreneurs where it might be, a husband and wife team working together. In your case, your brother is also in the family business. Is there ever any sort of friendly competition amongst you two, or is it more of a collaboration?
Yeah, we're both pretty competitive. So, and he's a jokester, so we like to rib each other. So, yeah, we have some competitive competition, but we also collaborate very well, and we try to present ourselves as sister stores, and we do marketing together, and we always try to stay on the same page, as we present to customers.
Yes, yes. Well, that's good to hear because sometimes, being in business in a family business can be kind of dicey, but also I think it can be just wonderfully like such a wonderful thing as well. You mentioned in your advice for other entrepreneurs, the importance of planning, the importance of assessing whether it's worth it to kind of, put your life savings or put a significant amount into the business. Do you remember that process that your parents went through when they were acquiring this business, or how did that handoff kind of come about?
The handoff for my brother, he worked his jobs, and so did I as a teenager, and we had savings that we put up. Yep, a little financing. Dad helped.
Nice. And then from the original family to your family, how did that take place?
So actually, my father being an accountant, I was mentioning his client was the owner of Kline's at the time.
Okay.
In between the Kline family and the Earharts, a gentleman named Sam Fletcher owned it for a couple of years, and he was a tax client of my father. And Sam was, I think, already kind of in retirement age, and ran it for a few years, but then didn't want to stick with it, and he was ready to sell it. So it just was an opportunity that popped up that my father had knowledge of.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's interesting how sometimes those paths kind of unfold. So being around, ice cream all the time, sometimes they say there can be too much of a good thing, but are you still a big ice cream fan, or are you at the point where you've done this for so long, you're like, I can refrain from the ice cream?
I've, growing up, I've never had a really big sweet tooth, and I've never been a huge ice cream eater.
Okay.
I guess also with Kline's coming into my family at age 12, and then I started when I was 13. I never really liked ice cream that much, but Kline's ice cream is a little different than other
Right.
ice creams, and so when I eat ice cream, it's Kline's, but I still don't eat a whole lot of it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I know that we've talked a lot about community in this episode, and I know that Klein's is a huge supporter of a lot of community causes. So can you tell me a little bit more about why that's important?
The community has been so good to us, very supportive of our business, and it's how we make our living. And we are just very passionate about being a part of the community and giving back.
Yeah.
It's really a circle. We do try to give a lot to local organizations. We also employ a lot of people in the community and keep the money here. Last year, we created a community fund through the community fund of the Blue Ridge. So, yeah, really, really proud of that, so that we can help with not just organizations, nonprofit organizations who are all doing wonderful work in the community, but also addressing some of our bigger community needs, like affordable housing and childcare, and mental health. Those issues are really important to me, and just feel good that we're a local business that can help.
Yes, well, you do a wonderful job of that. And it's such a beautiful example of how, a business, yes, you're selling, a product, but how business can really come alongside the community and contribute. And it's like a mutually beneficial relationship. You mentioned those three areas of focus that are very important to you. Why those three specific things?
I read a lot about that in the news. We have, I feel like, a crisis of that nationwide, not just in our own community, just through organizations I'm involved with, and yeah, just passionate about those things because I feel like they're things that affect all of us, and even if they're not affecting us or our families directly, it's affecting us as a community and the people around us. And I care about people.
Right. Well said. Well, thank you for the interview. Thank you for all the great things that are happening at Kline's. You have something special. I know when I have friends or family come into town, Kline's is always a destination of like, we need to go get ice cream. Or, it seems like when my friends and I go out to dinner, we always like wrap it up with some ice cream at Kline's. And so it really is the kind of this great gathering spot, and delicious ice cream, of course. But thank you so much for the enjoyment and the gathering spot and all the great things you're doing for the community over there at Kline's.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate y'all too. Just really appreciate the community and am honored that we can be that spot.
Awesome. Well, anyone that is listening, if you would like to learn more about businesses in Waynesboro, please visit waynesborobusiness.com. You can also read about Waynesboro entrepreneurs at growwaynesboro.com, and be sure to tune in for more episodes of Waynesboro at Work. You can subscribe on Spotify and the Visit Waynesboro YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Tune in next time. And in the meantime, stay safe and be well.